I'm Scott Coon, author of Godless Armageddon. You might notice the t-shirt. Today I'm going to be reading you an excerpt from Chapter 1. Now it's important to note that by the middle of Chapter 1, almost every character in the entire book is dead. And then the rest of the book takes place in the afterlife. But in this scene that I'm going to be reading to you today, all the characters are still alive, so you get to know them right before they die, as Thom is about to tell you. So let's get into it. Chapter 1, I Died, Godless Armageddon, by me, Scott Coon. This is not a Bible. If someone presents this book to you as a religious text, they are feeding you a line. I'm dead, and I'm writing this through a living surrogate, but I am not a god, nor is anyone else in the afterlife. If anyone from here contacts you claiming to be some kind of a divine being, don't fall for it. They're lying, they're selfish, and they're indulging themselves in a way that endangers your soul and the soul of every person, living and dead, throughout human history. That is why I am telling this story. That is why I am putting this poor guy through the trauma of hearing my disembodied voice in his head. My purpose is to prevent that. So, for the sake of all human souls and this man's sanity, let me begin. As one might expect from someone in the afterlife, the story I have to tell starts on the day I died, when I was still Staff Sergeant Thomas Jefferson Stoneshield II. There are no atheists in foxholes. Well, there's one in this boat, Staff Sergeant Stoneshield yelled back at Sergeant Peterson while the engines gurgled and roared. 2, yelled Corporal Johnston from in front of Thom. 2.5, I guess, Corporal David Lowenstein said, looking over his shoulder at Johnston and Thom. He added, agnostic. Thom was wedged in the middle of his squad of U.S. Army Rangers in the landing craft with Peterson crammed right up behind him. Peterson's little buddy, Corporal Corbin, was right there with him. It was hard enough to focus while bouncing from white cap to white cap, his stomach flipping like flapjacks. Hearing one of Peterson's sermons wouldn't help. Thom needed to focus on the mission and getting his men through it, alive. They were headed for Point du Hoc to take out the guns overlooking the beaches of Normandy. At least they were supposed to be. Thom couldn't see the other boats or the cliffs, only gray mist and choppy water. The mission hadn't even started yet, and it was already belly up, and Peterson couldn't shut up. It's not too late, Peterson bellowed in Thom's ear. Find trust in the Lord, and he will see you through. Johnston said, you're barking up the wrong heathen. He's got atheist on his dog tags. They let you do that? Corbin asked. Not possible, Peterson said. They wouldn't. No, really, Johnston said. He kept sending them back until they did it. Hey, Stoneshield, show him your tags. Thom fished his tags out from under his layers of clothes and gear, then tossed them over his shoulder. Peterson tugged them tight around Thom's neck. The thin chain threatened to break with each bounce of the boat. If Thom lost them and he died, his body could go unidentified. Not that Thom had anyone to collect his remains. He didn't even have anyone to visit on his last leave before shipping out. He ended up wandering the streets of New York. His dad died back in the First Great War. His mother had died before he enlisted. Even his best friend, Gregory, had died somewhere in Italy. His closest relative would be one of his second cousins, but he didn't really know any of them. There was Great Uncle Marv, his grandfather's brother, but Thom hadn't seen him in so long that he was pretty sure Great Uncle Marv was gone too. If Thom kicked the bucket here today, it wouldn't matter much to anyone. No one would want his remains. Blasphemy, Peterson said, still holding the chain. How could you do that to your soul? Corbin said. Thom pulled his tags free. Actually, it was all my soul's idea. He tucked them away and returned to looking for the other boats, or even the cliffs of Point du Hoc. The men on the beaches needed them to complete this mission, even if their boat had to do it alone. Sent your tags back, what, 2-3 times before they put atheist on them? Johnston asked. Ain't that right, Stoneshield? Me, all I got was no preference. Hey, Lowenstein, what do you get? Jew. David Lowenstein fired the word like a bullet. And I'm gonna shove it in the face of every Nazi kraut from here to Berlin. Thom got up on his toes, trying to see out ahead of them, past the bow of their DUKW, which they pronounced duck. But he couldn't see anything but dark sky and choppy water. The extension ladder from the London Fire Brigade wasn't helping. It'd been slapped on their boat at the last minute. They already had grappling hooks and pipe ladders. The extension ladder was redundant, heavy, and reduced stability. They'd be lucky to make it ashore without capsizing. And where the hell were the other boats? Don't worry, Sergeant Stoneshield, Peterson said. I'll pray for your soul. Johnston shoved his way past Thom to shake a fist in Peterson's face. Try praying for my soul and I'll punch you in the mouth, you poof. Thom turned to snarl at Johnston and his word for queer. Maybe it was the sound. Maybe it was the way kids threw it at each other when he was growing up. He didn't know, but Thom always hated that word. Poof. Right now, it made him want to punch Johnston in the mouth. Peterson blessed Johnston. Johnston cocked his fist. Before he could throw it, Thom shoved Johnston back a step. Knock it off. We don't need you two mixing it up. From the back of the boat, Sergeant First Class Williamson roared, What's the trouble up there? When no one answered, he yelled, Save it for the Krauts. A long silence followed, underscored by the gurgling and growling of the engines lifting into the air, then flopping back into the brine with a slap and a sputter. Light seeped into the sky, thinning the gray mist, but not enough to see anything. Thom asked, Anybody got eyes on the other boats? Everyone looked, but no one saw anything. We won't try to take the cliffs alone, right? Corbin asked, his words fast and choppy, like the whitecaps hitting their hull. I mean, we'd fall in with the other boats on the beach, right? With this weather, David Lowenstein said, we'll be pulled back. It ain't today. Yeah, Corbin said, his voice easing. It would take a miracle to land today. Ask and the Lord shall provide, Peterson said. Johnston shook his head. Weather ain't no miracle. All of life is a miracle, Peterson said. Johnston snorted. Yeah, this is a miracle. A regular European vacation. I always wanted to see Europe. Corbin forced a chuckle. Didn't your father die here, Stoneshield? Johnston said. Flanders Fields. Thom's words lingered long after they'd been devoured by the engines and waves. Thom could feel his comrades comparing their current mission to that suicidal disaster from the First Great War, where soldiers were ordered to senselessly charge into mud and machine gun fire. Glancing around, he found them all staring down at the seawater and motor oil sloshing over their boots. I lived here, David said, ending the moment. I was German until I was 9. My parents are still here, maybe. I'm planning to go looking for them after, if I can. What are you, gonna desert and go searching all over Europe? Johnston asked. If I have to. After all the bombs we dropped on the Krauts? Johnston said. You really think you'll find your parents? David clenched his jaw. I don't know, but I'll try. Right after we kill every Nazi from here to Berlin. Thom knew the odds were against David. Even if the worst rumors weren't true, even if what happened in Warsaw wasn't what the Nazis were doing to all the Jews, this was still war. A world war. American B-17s pounded the German cities every day, while Britain's Lancasters pounded them every night. But at least David had a chance of finding his parents alive. All Thom had was his dad's folded flag, his mom's St. Christopher medal, and a letter from Gregory's sister telling Thom that his best friend was dead. With no one to ship it home to, the folded flag had to stay back at Thom's last duty station in England. But he wore the medal and kept the letter tucked close to his heart. It was all he had left of Gregory. They'd met in basic training and fought together across Africa. They became inseparable, even taking leave together. When the war turned to Europe, the army sent Thom to England and Gregory to Sicily. The last thing Gregory said to Thom was, I'll see you in Berlin. It didn't matter that Gregory wasn't able to keep that promise. Thom probably wouldn't make it either. He didn't expect most of the men on this boat to live through the day. Even if they did, the odds of any of them surviving to see Berlin were slim. But Thom's life didn't matter as much as his name. The name Thomas Jefferson Stoneshield VII was his birthright and his responsibility, one that he'd failed. Though 27, he had no kids, not even a wife. He hadn't gotten around to it. Now, there'd never be a Thomas Jefferson Stoneshield VIII, and it was all his fault. And that's the end of this excerpt from Chapter 1. As you can tell, they're all on their way to get killed. And then the rest of the story takes place in a very interesting afterlife that has never been imagined before. It's a golden ocean that's wrapped around the earth, held there by its gravity, and we cannot see it. But that's the rest of the story, and I hope you go out and get yourself a copy of Godless Armageddon so you can read the rest of the story. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Go out and get a copy of Godless Armageddon. I'll leave all the links below. Thank you.